So I've been doing some modding for Silksong lately, but unfortunately, with the newer version of BepInEx that's come out, it is very, very difficult to get mods to work on Mac OS. It tends to just straight up not start. Fortunately, I found a pretty simple workaround for this using the BepInEx issues forum. And I figured I would just go ahead and put together a quick tutorial for how to install mods in general so that for future reference you could come back to this video and it would make the process easier on you. So to start out, the thing we're going to be using to install this is a thing called Gibb. What Gibb does is it makes the process of installing BepInEx much easier. It essentially makes the process of giving permissions to your Mac OS much more simple because Mac OS tends to interact with BepInEx very negatively. It tends to jump around. It doesn't give permissions to specific subsets of the actual files themselves, but doesn't tell you which ones it's not giving permissions to. So you have to you essentially have to use something like Gibb to work around it unless you want to have a several hours process. So to start out with, what you're going to do is you're going to go down below and you're going to download both the 5.4.23.5 for BepInEx releases and the 5.4.23.4. You'll find both of those at the links I leave down below. You're going to go into them and download the Mac OS version of them, 2.3.4. It's this file right here. In 2.3.5, it's this universal file right here. Once you got that, you're going to come over here to the downloaded folders that you'll now have whenever you've opened them. And so the problem right now that we have is that the shell file in 2.3.5, unfortunately, it just straight up will brick it for you. It just won't work. And so the easiest solution to this is you take the shell file out from the newer version, take the shell file from the older folder, the 2.3.4, and place that into your 2.3.5 file. Once you've got that, very, very simple process from here. You're going to go up to your terminal, pull that up, come over here and copy. I'll have this down below. You're going to copy that that command that I have listed and just click enter, and that'll open up Gibb for you. Okay. Once you got that, there is the other stuff that it mentions is very relevant, but in my installation process, I was fine with just having limited setup because I don't use Silksong mods that often. But if you're interested in what certain how these options work, I'll leave a link to the Gibb setup down below so you can mess with it yourself. But once you got that pulled up, you're gonna walk through here, keep it very, very easy. And you're just going to follow the instructions. They're very, very simple. It says go ahead and put together your BepInEx folder. So you're going to walk over here, click on that BepInEx, Option Command C, so you can copy the path, and come back here and just Command V and click Enter. Once it's got that, next stop is you're going to pull up your Steam and come on down to Hollow Knight Silksong. Great game, by the way. Once you got that pulled up, right-click, Manage, Browse Local Files. Okay, and you're just going to click on this little hornet head here, Option Command C, copies that path for you, and just paste that straight into there. Once you got that, go ahead and type an N, and if you want to skip this for now, you'll have to type a Y to confirm that it'll go ahead and do that. And once you do this, it's going to go ahead and close down your Steam for you. Once you've done that, just click enter and it'll go through and it'll install everything. It'll set up launch options. It'll just make the process of installing BepInEx much, much simpler. And since you replaced that shell file, theoretically, it should open Silksong on the first try. In this case, seems like mods worked for us. However, what you're going to notice that's really common is once you get in here, you're not going to be able to access any form of config menu. It's very, very common with the Mac installation. For some reason, it doesn't install it automatically. That might have been, that one is kind of an issue on my end more than anything. However, process of fixing that, shockingly, shockingly simple. You're just going to go into here, right-click on Hollow Knight Silksong again, pull up those local files that I had you mess with before, click on BepInEx, click on plugins, and then what you're going to do, I've already got them installed for now, but I'll go ahead and show you, is you'll go to this Nexus mods link here, the config manager link, and you'll need a Nexus account in order to do this, but go ahead and download that. Once you got that downloaded, you can go ahead and download as well if you want to. I was using the God Home mode for my test, so you can use that if you like. Very, very fun mod that lets you refight bosses as much as you want, so you can go ahead and download that as well. And once you've got that, Go ahead and pull back up the main folder for BepInEx there. Sorry, wrong link. Go ahead and pull up the main folder for BepInEx there, which is going to be right here, the plugins. And as you can see here, this is the config folder that you would have just downloaded. And you're going to pull it up and click on BepInEx. You're going to click on plugins, configuration manager, and you'll find this little folder here. You're going to take the configuration manager.dll and you're going to drag it over in your plugins folder here. From there, you're going to back out, go on over to the God Home mod over here, take the same DLL file, think of it as like your mod file, and drag that over into your plugins menu. And once you've got both of those installed, you're going to go over to Silksong over here, click on it, click play, and it should just automatically start with it. Once you're in, another key detail that you might notice is that when you look at BepInEx literature online, it's going to tell you to click F1. Unfortunately, on Mac, that just by itself doesn't work, but it's actually very, very simple solution that seems a lot more confusing than anything. You're just going to add FN on top of that to show that it's a function. So you go FN F1, and that'll pull up the mod menu for you. From there, you can mess with it, reset things, change things if you need to, but for the most part, it should just work. And yeah, that should be all for now. Quite a little bit of a confusing process to get there, but once you get into it and switch out that shell file, it's surprisingly simple. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask down below, and have a great day. Thank you all.